Committee of the Whole meeting of Osoyoos Town Council, Monday, April the 15th, 9 a.m. in Council Chambers. And first off is the introduction of late items. Nothing else, thank you. So could we have a motion, please, that Committee of the Whole agenda be adopted? Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes is on his way back. He has been in Edmonton for the weekend. Flew into Kelowna this morning, so he's on the road coming back. He'll get here as soon as he's in town. So we have a couple of delegations this morning, and the first one is Buy Low BC, and we have a presentation from Shane Wright, who's the coordinator of this. Welcome, Shane. Would you like to come up to the microphone, please?
Morning. Hello, everybody, once again. And good morning, Mayor McCordoff and committee members. And as always, thank you for your ongoing support of Buy Local, Buy Fresh, and for having me here once again to give an update on the project. So again, my name is Shane Wright, and I'm a local project manager and mapping specialist, and I'm from Lake Country near Vernon, and also the proprietor of the Buy Local BC initiative. Over the past 2 seasons, we have corresponded with you through email by way of Destination Osoyoos, who's been coordinating this sponsorship. And so today, I want to give you an update quickly on the campaign over the past couple of seasons since we last met in person in November 2016. You can have the next slide, thanks. For a quick project review and update, the Buy Local, Buy Fresh food and farm maps are the centerpiece of our annual campaign to highlight local food and where to find it in the community. This year's 2019 edition marks the 7th annual Okanagan-Similkameen map and the 4th edition of the Thompson Shoe Swap map. Now, this cost-effective direct marketing tool for farms and local food businesses includes our free printed fold-out map, also an online directory of listings, a parallel signage campaign for farms and food products, and the option to participate in our booth at local events each season, including farmers markets across the region, the Feast of Fields event, the Salmon Arm Apple Festival, the Organic Okanagan Festival each September in Kelowna, among others. And as you may know, we have licensed the brand, the Buy Local, Buy Fresh brand, which was created in 2002 in Waterloo Region, Ontario, and has then been shared with over a dozen other areas across Canada, including this Okanagan Valley map and our newest Thompson Shoe Swap edition. As you may recall, we invite all the levels of the local food system to participate in this project, including local farms, orchards, wineries, and cideries, businesses like restaurants, food retailers and distributors, food processors like butchers, bakers, cheesemakers, and millers, local farmers markets, as I mentioned, also municipalities and regional districts. There are 7 municipal sponsors again in 2019, including one new one in Armstrong Region. And we also work with producer associations like the Certified Organic Association of British Columbia. Now, last year's 2018 Okanagan-Similkameen map has over 75 participants, which includes 50 farms and over 25 other businesses. The current 2018 Thompson Shoe Swap map showcases 50 participants, including 27 farms. And so the campaign now includes over 125 participants across the 2 maps, and it covers the entire Thompson-Okanagan region, as well as the Shoe Swap, for both greater recognition and also a more comprehensive regional coverage for visitors and users of the map. So this social enterprise links all of these stakeholders in support of local food and farming. And as you know, the sponsorship funds directly support the map's production each year. It allows us to cover our printing and staffing, and also ensures the sustainability of the campaign for all of our participants. Go ahead one slide. Just for a bit of quick project feedback, the maps continue to be well received. That's by both the advertisers and by those using the maps. And this brochure has become one of the most requested publications at local outlets and visitor centers. And a few of the other comments I've printed out here, I'll read off a few. Quote, visitors at our markets are snapping them up. People love the maps. from Kelowna Farmers and Crafters Market. Quote, I'm thrilled with the map, and yes, we love to hand it out. It is a good fit for my customer base. That's from Rogers Foods in Armstrong. Quote, really appreciate all your hard work in bringing this to life. Our customers love the map, and they fly out of here. And that's from True Grain Breads Bakery in Summerland. And finally, quote, you offer the best advertising value around, from Painter's Fruit Market in West Bank. Okay, and finally, last slide is our next steps. This season, we'll be working on the continued development of our Okanagan Similkameen campaign and further growing the newer Thompson Shoe Swap program. Now, each season sees a steady return and growth of new participants, even in the challenging flood and fire seasons like 2017 and 2018, which have indeed proven to be difficult for many of the producers and the markets. Now, redesigning the maps to accommodate annual growth and changes is costly, and it relies on the stable support of our sponsors and our advertisers. And while I know that budgets are set annually, I ask that perhaps we continue to look ahead to considering the next 3 to 5 year period of stable funding for the campaign as it becomes better established. And we plan to continue producing these maps ongoing, and we hope that our sponsors are pleased to continue supporting annually where possible. So once again this year, we continue to work on our website as the visits continue to increase each season, and that includes refinement of our search results page in particular, as well as ease of use on smaller screen sizes like mobile devices. We are once again holding advertising rates unchanged again this season, and once again we want to thank Town of Osoyoos for continuing to support the ongoing $500 annual sponsorship, including the cover logo display and the display ad on the map itself provided by you to promote the Osoyoos Market on Main. And as you know, we also assist the farmers market with their ad redesigns when needed year to year. So I'll conclude now by turning to some printed samples of the maps that I'll hand out shortly, as well as any questions. And thanks again for your time today and for your continued support of Buy Local, Buy Fresh Okanagan.
Thank you very much, Shane. Definitely appreciate having the maps and being the sponsor of the maps. And I see we have the Osoyoos Town logo on the front of it, which is helpful. The one place that I see these all the time is at our farmers market, which starts in a couple of weeks, right outside here, and it goes to the end of September, and it's very well received there. Great maps, very professional, and of course, buy local is super important to us, and buy fresh. I mean, we have the best fruits and vegetables here, so why not support them? So thank you very much for coming. I'll just see if anyone else has any questions or concerns about this. No? And have you sent us a bill for this year?
Not as of yet, no. No, we sent a request letter, but the invoice will follow very shortly, yes.
And we don't need to deal with that? No, we'll let the staff deal with that part of it.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your updated map with our logo on the front.
Wonderful.
So, thank you.
Thanks once again.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
So our next delegation is the Desert Park Society, and they would just like to have a few words and tell us a little bit about what they're doing and what they see in the future. So welcome, Bobby.
Thank you very much, Sue. I am going to be very brief. This is really a meet and greet introduction of our new board. We have 11 members. There's 4 of them here. Others will come. So this is just to open the door to a relationship that we would like to develop with you over the next year. Mm-hmm. Our plans at the moment are to increase the use of the Desert Park grounds, the equine use in particular. We need to expand the use as it's designed for horses. Unfortunately, we are looking at a very good trainer who wants to make this a year-round home base for his horses. He's got mares that are foaling. He's going to start young horses. He's He races in Hastings and in Alberta, etc. So we're just feeling that out and seeing how we can partner up with him and using the barns that we have down there and using the track. I think he's a good person. He pays his bills, and he wants to work with us. So we're in the process of negotiating with him. Also, we need to find another event. The medieval fair, as you probably know, is not going to happen this year. 3 years is enough for me. So big job.
Yes.
So we have 3 or 4 events that are on the table for us to talk about on our next meeting and see which one we will go with. I don't think we'll be able to handle more than one significant event this year. So that's really my summary. Are there any questions?
And I know that you're not having the medieval fair this year, but did you say there will be an event sometime, or you're not sure whether you'll have it this year or not?
Well, the medieval fair will not happen this year.
No, I knew that.
But yes, there are 4 events that are on the agenda to talk about on the May 6th meeting. Depends upon which one looks the most likely and the most affordable. We do not have the money that we had for the medieval fair. I ran it for 3 years, and it's a $40,000 to $50,000 endeavor. And we still made profits in spite of that. So it's very important that whatever event we have is marketed properly and that it turns a profit, even if it's small. As you know, with the races, the profit wasn't big. It was a gift to the town, really.
And we certainly enjoyed that. I was at it several times, and I think that it was kind of an unusual event for a small town, and it was very well received, I think, by people who were interested in seeing that, and the costumes and the racing down with the lances. I'm not quite sure what that's called, but that was quite interesting. I mean, one person had to be picked up off the ground, as I recall.
Right.
So I'm sure it takes a lot of work to put on those types of events, and so if you've got a new executive, wonderful. Good luck with getting them all energized, and we look forward to hearing more about what you're planning to do.
There are 2 that I think are really interesting. One is a long table dinner that is has one of our new directors has volunteered to look into that, and she's in the winery business and is very capable business person, and her husband's a chef inclined person. And the other one that I think is very interesting is called CIRA, which is Canadian Indian Relay Racing Association. It's a very large sport. It's growing massively in the United States. It exists in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and I've been in contact with Dexter Bruised Head, who's a native, and the purpose of this association is to keep young people out of trouble and help them be interested in doing what is active and as a team, and it's a marvelous event. So we're working, hopefully, to get that to come to BC.
Good. So, thank you. It's Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really want to thank you and your group for coming to make this presentation and letting Council understand there is a new face at Desert Park. I was fortunate enough to attend the AGM, and there was 11 people come forward to sit on the board that seemed very enthusiastic and come up with a lot of creative ideas. So I really wish you and your group the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for the time.
Good.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for coming, and congratulations to getting a full executive. That's a major accomplishment. Okay, thank you. And next on our agenda is a report on future water sources. Mr. Dinwiddie.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So at the December 17th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting, Town Council received information on potential future water sources and various treatment options available to the community. There will be a presentation from True Consulting, which will highlight the next steps to be undertaken with this analysis. So the Operational Services Department has requested True Consulting Limited to undertake a water source assessment and sampling program. As part of this assessment, Lorette Aquatic Consultants have been hired to conduct a variety of sampling and studies to assess the water quality in Osoyoos Lake near the existing irrigation system intake number 8. There's a report that you now have. So please see and attach the memorandum from True Consulting as well as the proposal from Lorette Aquatic Consultants for more information about this project. After this analysis of Osoyoos lake water is completed, True Consulting Limited will provide the town with a report and recommendation on future water sources and treatment options in the fall of this year. So this report is just to be received by Town Council for information, and we'll let Mr. Steve Underwood show you the good report.
Thank you. Good morning, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess just to bring us up to date where we last left off, we looked at surface water as a possible source moving into the future, but we weren't confident with the surface water quality. And so that's where the recommendation came to engage in a water quality sampling program throughout this year to look at the lake water quality. When the lake stratifies by temperature, like there'll be a warm plume on the top and there'll be a cold plume, at what depth that happens, and then what the water quality looks like at all those depths to see if there is a optimum spot where an intake could be positioned that we might be able to use as a future source. The other thing that we're proposing to do is look a little bit harder at all our wells. There was some question about whether or not they were groundwater under direct influence and whether they might need UV as future treatment. So as part of this, we're also proposing to sample those throughout the irrigation season and just to learn more about their water quality to see if we can make a determination on whether or not UV is or isn't required if we follow the groundwater route. So this is a very brief presentation compared to my last one. I'm just going to quickly go over what we're proposing to do, when we're proposing to do it, and how much it's going to cost.
Okay.
As I've already said, we're really aiming towards a grant application, hopefully in the new year for this. So what we're trying to do is run this sampling program, get reports completed in the fall that can be supporting documents that line up for the grant application. And really what we want to do is show the regulators and everyone that we've done the right amount of science and that we're confident in the choices that we're making. So what are we going to do? We're going to sample every month through the spring and summer, and we're going to sample at all the depths listed there. And I think you guys probably prefer to work in feet, so we're going to sample at 50, 6,500, 130, 165, 200 feet, right out in front of where the System 8 intake is. The lake gets to 220 feet deep. And we're going to sample for a whole suite of things that we'd be interested in for potability, but we're also looking for the effects of algae blooms, and how those can have negative effects on the water, but we're going to try and see if they're concentrated at different depths more than others. The other things they're going to look at is the effect of wind and wind stirring up the surface of the lake to see how that moves stuff down or the changes the temperature, see if we can find where the thermocline develops, but then go back out after a storm and see if the thermocline has moved. They're also going to look at the lake bottom. We're going to inspect the existing intake, and we're going to take samples of the sediment, and we're going to put sediment traps on the bottom to see what falls to the bottom throughout the year, and then also analyze it to see what's in it and what may be negative.
Could you have a look for the Rocky Mountain Ridge mussels while you're down there, please?
This was a new vocabulary item for me, a Drogue Study. So they're going to deploy these in the lake. They have GPS beacons on them, and they have like a tail that's at different depths, and they'll monitor the currents, because the currents will pull these things around the lake near the intake. And what we're looking there for is often you think the lake's flowing one way, but there's these little back eddies that might develop, and we then look for stormwater outfalls of potential sources of contamination upstream of where the currents are for our particular intake location. So we'll be studying currents just around the System 8 intake to see if there's some areas where we might have potential hazards in the future. So once we kind of get all these things together, and a lot of a lot of sampling is going to be done, and a lot of sampling results will be analyzed and then tabulated, and then we'll be presenting those we're going to propose to do a kind of an interim report more in the fall. We'll show you what we've got to date, but then we'll keep sampling through the fall and do more of a final report in December. So for the groundwater, again, we're going to sample from the wells once the irrigation season starts. So once the wells start getting pumped hard, we'll start a regular sampling program. We'll look at their manganese levels. We do have samples on manganese, but we'll see if it changes. Like, we just have one sample every once in a while that we take, like once a year sort of thing. This will take more frequently, make sure we are over that magical threshold for the MAC that's going to be coming this year. And we'll look to just to see if we do need UV on any of those wells, because it's up in the air right now on 2 of them. And as I've already said, we'll come and re-present it to you in the fall. Good. Is there any questions?
Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Some of these testings, does that coincide with the testings we already do about the water?
Nope.
We sample annually per IHA for like full potability. So we would already be doing that maybe once a year at System 8. And then we sample for health things like total in from the distribution system. So that would, everything we're proposing to do is pretty much over and above that, because we'll be sampling raw water mainly at all these different depths in the lake that have nothing to do with where System 8's intake currently is. And they'll all be, it's not water that's actually being used in your system, it'll be just additional testing.
Thank you.
Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Comment and a question. The Osoyoos Lake Water Quality Society has been doing 2 factors for years at that point, which is temperature and dissolved oxygen. The rest of them, I don't think they have the kit to do. Mm-hmm. So they might be of use for information, historical.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to talk to them. The question is, this is a point-in-time sample of the quality of the water, which could be a source of town drinking water for decades to come. So 50 years ago, I could drop a quarter off of the float out front of Mom's house and see it go all the way to the bottom and shine off the bottom of the lake. Today, I can't see it go 5 feet, and it's gone. What is it going to be like in 50 years' time from now, right? This is just an anecdote, and I don't know what are the factors that make the water so less brilliant than it was 50 years ago, but it's there, and I'm concerned that we make a decision based on a point-in-time sample.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that, before we did the Northwest Sector Sewer Project, or before we did a lot of sewering in the lake, this intake wouldn't even be considered, and it hasn't necessarily been considered very seriously, up until this year, and it's really going to be dependent on how that water quality does pan out.
So I'm happy to see that you've got Heather Larrett doing this study, because she's done quite a lot of work for the Okanagan Basin Water Board, and I know that she's very well respected in that regard, so that certainly seems to make sense to me. I think one of the concerns, Councillor Harvey, is the fact that we have Eurasian Milfoil, which has been in the lake for the last 40 years that we know of for sure. And I think that has very likely caused a lot of the concern about why you can't see off the dock. Certainly there are other weeds out there too, but the Eurasian Milfoil has been a huge concern, which is why you see the harvester out there, the rototiller, red rototiller, green harvester. So there's two different ones, but they're not able to get everywhere this year, we don't think, because of the Rocky Mountain Ridge mussels, which is why I want you to keep an eye out for them. Sorry, Mr. Emenko.
Question, Steve. What we're looking for is kind of the optimum depth, right?
Well, yeah, I guess what we're looking for is 2 things. One is whether or not there is an optimum depth, because we can try and out deep the algae blooms and stuff like that, but then we end up getting into different issues of no oxygen in the water and more dissolved metals in the water because it's dissolving it out of the substrate. So we could not find an and I could come back to you and say, this just isn't going to work, and we're going back to groundwater. So what we want to do is confirm whether or not there is a viable depth out there, and then which one the optimum one might be.
So how would our lake changes depths over the course, with the lowering and raising of lakes and stuff, the lake? So how would we, ultimately find that optimum depth?
Well, that's partly why we have Heather Larrett on the team here. She is kind of the expert in this in the Okanagan Valley. Whenever you're trying to determine the optimum depth or an intake, you do want to retain her services to do a lot of this work and to make the recommendations. And so the thermocline develops at a depth from surface, so we know that if the surface is changing, we still need to get below that depth. But the other considerations are accessibility even to the new intake, because if we go too deep, we can't send divers to it necessarily to clean it and to do maintenance on it. And so there's going to be a lot to weigh in whether or not this is going to be a viable.
And just a question, a regulatory question. So if the decision at some particular point in time was to try and use the lake as a source, is there any difference in permitting, trying to get water out of a lake versus the underground
Yeah,
water?
we currently have a water license to supply irrigation and domestic water from that location. What we would need to amend our water license to increase the amount of potable water or domestic water that we would want to take from it, and we would want to amend the location of our point of diversion to be likely further out into the lake. So it is a water license amendment. It will take time, like it'll trigger consultation.
Yeah.
And it'll take time, but it's definitely not impossible, especially now that groundwater is licensed, because we'll have approval for our groundwater sources, so we'd be taking that capacity likely and saying we're going to move it to the lake.
So it says on your on the chart here that you've started in March taking, is that correct, or?
There was still ice on the lake in March,
Yeah.
so we didn't, but we have started it in this month, April.
In April. Okay,
Yeah.
It says none, but you're going to start.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're getting things rolling now, and the other thing that we did receive in April was a letter from IJ saying that the change is actually coming, but no one will say when for this regulation that we've been targeting. So that's another update.
So we need to get on it.
Did you say there's going to be some additional buoys floating in the lake, like a lot, or just one, or?
I don't know how many, but depending on they'll be out there as they put them out there and they float around for a while and then they go gather them back up. Heather's team does it, or Larrett Aquatic does it, and then they'll put them in another spot and watch them go. But
Okay, so
they might do more than one, so they'll do one at a time.
I'm just looking from a public information perspective. If maybe we should put something up at the marina minimally to let people know what we're doing. So
yeah, I can mention that too, or see if they've
Okay.
had to do anything in the past from a nav. They should be well marked out there.
yeah.
We can always put it on our webpage or something like that as well.
Well, yeah, at least the marina attracts the boaters,
Yes.
that are going through, and they'll know what those buoys are. I know probably a lot of people ask themselves, what's that buoy doing floating out by the cottages every year? Everybody's kind of wondering what it's all about.
And are they a certain color too? That might, because various people have different buoys out there. I don't know whether they choose the color, or I don't know whether Heather would want a certain color on her buoys or not.
Please do not touch her. They might get some.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
say I've seen the data from these on other lakes, but I've never really thought of the logistics. I don't know what
Okay.
she actually does to deploy them, but I can learn more.
Okay.
And let Jim know.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Steve, what, compared to other communities, is there a lot of communities going towards lake water, or are they going to wells? Is there kind of a direction they're going?
That's a really good question. Generally groundwater has been more economical to provide in the past, and so the treatment requirements have always been usually cheaper. So because usually the treatment is nothing, like chlorine or whatever, so there's not usually filtration, or you're not usually removing anything from groundwater. Surface water, I think a lot of the bigger systems go to surface water because of the capacity, and so once you get to a certain size, the capacity is there to just have a lot more of it in one spot, and then the treatment can all be focused at one spot, so you're not doing multiple satellite remote things. So the economics are, I guess they work both ways, but when you can have one large central place, it does work out. So a lot of the communities in the Okanagan are off of Okanagan Lake now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I knew that. Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at the end of the summer, or the next time you come and give us a report. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
And I think that's all that we have for our committee of the whole, so could we please have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Councillor King, Councillor Harvey, all in favor. Thank you very much.